It don't stop. Bands running up, he got enough to pay the cops. My team don't stop, got the game on lock. Baby girl, make it drop. Let me see what you about. Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to go viral, so.
Yeah, bro, whatever you want to do, man. Let's go. Welcome, guys. This is Brian Uribe here.
And Daniel Guiney. We're here with Konsole, and this is our first installment of the Konsole Consulting video series.
Absolutely. So here we have...
Liri Asllani.
Sheila Haya.
And you guys do?
So we are in the film industry. We're both filmmakers, and we are both writers, producers, and directors.
Okay, awesome. What are you guys working on now?
We're working on a short film that I'm writing, and she's executive producing, and it's called Nadia Jan. It's about an Afghan American girl who's trapped between two worlds, and she's just trying to figure out her identity and who she is through her sexuality.
Awesome. What inspired the project?
So was it like the inspiration from something you experienced personally? Was this something that you just came up with on a whim? And if you could tell us about a little bit how you guys met and even started working on the project together. You know, we want this to be really informative with the viewers and just, you know, really casual so people can get to know you and learn more about your project and help spread some awareness.
Yeah, so I actually wrote the script about 6 years ago, and it came to me because my background is from Afghanistan, and so I thought it would be really interesting to explore the idea of a woman who is discovering if she's a lesbian or not, like discovering who she is through her sexuality, because a lot of the times within the Afghan American culture, like you're not able to choose or to decide who you are and what you are, like there's a lot of influence through culture and pressure through parents and family and things that you have to.
Yeah.
So in terms of how we met, it's
Yeah.
funny. We actually met working at a restaurant.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
funny thing in New York, it's like you work at a restaurant and it's a big target for like a lot of artists and stuff, just because it's kind of conducive with the scheduling.
Yeah.
So she showed me the script. I'm a writer myself. This is the first time I'm executive producing something, but I really felt drawn to the project. I mean, I'm also Albanian American, so I can kind of relate in terms of somebody like that who's exploring and how hard it would be. I'm just thinking even in my culture, it's very similar, how hard it would be for them to actually express themselves in that way, or pretty much any way that's not considered the norm in those cultures. So I kind of really related to the characters in that sense of like, you know, struggling and always trying to find your identity for anything. And so she was like, hey, listen, we need a producer. And I'm like, yeah, count me in. Let's do this and let's make this the best thing we could possibly do. So here we are from there.
Yeah.
I think it's coming at a really interesting time because society's kind of starting to realize like, hey, this isn't only like the LGBTQ community isn't only concentrated around one type of culture or race. It's something international, and a lot of conversations are coming about right now where people are like, hey, this exists for everybody. It's not just like hippies, which were back in the day that they'd come out with this kind of stuff, right? It's, hey, everybody's going through this. So that's really interesting.
I mean, the other piece of it too is that being Middle Eastern or being from that diaspora where you're Muslim, especially in the media and in movies and film, like you only ever see two roles. Either you're the terrorist or you're the translator.
Absolutely.
And so we were just, you know, like for me especially, like I'm sick of it. Like that's not my reality. That's not my life. That's, you know, we're complex people. We are, you know, I don't wear a hijab. None of my family members do. And like, it's not to say that that's a bad thing, but it's just, there should be a wider scope of
It's so much
people.
more dynamic.
It's so much more dynamic. There's so many layers and there's so many things that are going on that, you know what I mean? Like we would love to share that with other people that they, and we've found that a lot of people from way outside of the Middle Eastern diaspora relate to it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like a lot of people from Senegal and, you know, and Haiti, like the director of photography, the cinematographer, he's like, I completely relate. Like, you know, like I don't know what it would be like for my sister or, you know, aunt to be gay. You know, like it's frowned upon.
And the other thing, just to go off of like representation of Muslims, especially in media and entertainment, I mean, another big thing is to realize, they only do see it in one sense, this whole, like, especially Muslim women wearing the hijab, brown, whereas a lot of people don't realize also that there's a lot of white Muslims too, like,
absolutely.
especially for me, like, when people say, like, they like, when I tell them I'm Muslim, they're like, what? And I'm like, no, like, I used to go to Jummah prayers every Friday. I used to pray up. My mother also is a practicing Muslim. She's white. There's people from Turkey, Bosnia, Albania,
Serbia.
It's a global religion, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that they only see it through like one little scope, and it's just it's not proper representation, and all of us feel it too. Like whenever you see that, it's just like, oh come on, you had to do another terrorist thing. It had to be this. It had to be like the bad guy again. So it is. Especially in our industry, like representation and showing, people in a different light is so important, because people are looking at that and they're identifying with it, and especially children too.
Absolutely.
You have to be kind of sensitive to that as well. You can completely, change an image for the better or for the worse of a whole people.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such a beautiful culture and religion. If you like actually research it, there's a lot of fascinating things that go on within the Muslim faith. And I think that's super valid, where we only look at the Middle East. You've got to come from one of the Middle Eastern countries where it's the largest religion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, there's so many
There's
other facets to it.
2.2 billion still growing
Yeah.
Muslims. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know we had it like that.
Yeah,
All right.
no. It's the largest. Yeah.
All right, I got to sit a little taller. We got
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
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 I remember when I first started to find out about Muslim culture and religion, I was like in high school, and I was like, how many billion people? I think it was like at 1 or 1.2 billion people.
Right.
So to hear this 2.2 billion maybe like a decade later is...
I mean, don't quote me on that number. I could
Yeah.
totally be on that
We'll get a citation.
You are a part of this.
It's definitely up there. It's
We're
definitely up
definitely
there.
finding you. Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you guys are coming at a really pivotal time, just the way society is sculpting itself right now, to come in and make a powerful message, convey this message to a wide berth of people, and really kind of re-image the face of how this is portrayed in that culture.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes from like, okay, we are tired of it, and we're layered, and we're this and that, and we're angry, and we're, you know what I mean? Like, we want to see that on TV, and it's like, okay, if we're just going to complain about it, that's not helping.
Absolutely.
So let's
Absolutely.
make it happen. Like, let's see who else feels the same way about us. Let's see, who else is going through the same things. Let's build stories around this. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
We have to be a part of the change.
And also this whole stigma with like, sexuality, especially in those cultures, it's like, especially women's sexuality. It's like almost like it doesn't exist. Like we have like a joke for all like Albanians, it's like we don't date, we just get married. So, but it's true though, a lot of people like the
That's
more
a good
traditional.
No offense.
No, but but it's true though. That's the thing, and like I can relate for that, especially in the Afghan and Middle Eastern cultures. It's like, they try to pretend like this whole idea of women's sexuality doesn't exist, that they don't have any feelings, that it's nothing, they can't be attracted in that sense. They don't date, you just get married, and it's like that's not true, especially nowadays where you have so many different conversations happening about sexuality. I mean, especially in New York.
Yeah.
Like, you have like
Absolutely.
LGBTQIA, I don't even know how many letters there are anymore. But just to go and show you that, like, it's very fluid. It's like there's a lot of other facets to it that we don't realize. And I think right now we're kind of going through in society a little bit like a revolution where people are trying to explore that more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this kind of film touches upon that as well. But there's a whole other conversation that's happening around these kind of topics too.
I have a lot of really good friends that are Muslim and females as well. And when I've seen like on Twitter, like there's people that actually stand up for the Muslim women that don't want to wear the hijab. And they're like, no, she's beautiful, she's entitled to that. And you'll see other women that are much more traditional attacking this woman. And it's like, we shouldn't be doing that as a people. We should be encouraging it, or at least understanding, right? It's not your walk of life. We should be a little bit more accepting. So definitely coming at a really interesting time where these conversations need to be pushed into the forefront. People need to have exposure to this. Some people are going to be like, oh my God, this is blasphemy, this can't exist, but you can't control that. That's how you feel, and that's like what you're interested in, then you have to pursue that. Let's not keep it locked in, because you do more damage than good.
Yeah, that is very well said, actually.
Yeah.
When you do keep it locked in, you do more damage. And
Absolutely.
that's the other thing that, like, a lot of people don't realize is that staying quiet and being complacent is actually just as worse as
Absolutely.
being the one that's saying it. And that's a lesson, that I've learned a lot, like in my life, like the hard way in a lot of senses, but that's very, very, very true.
Well, I mean, we've gotten here by people shutting up and not doing anything, and we kind of just like, hey, bro, this isn't working anymore. We need to speak up.
Pivotal. You really do need to be vocal. 'Cause I know you said it's almost as bad, but I think it's actually worse if you don't say anything, because then the only voice that's being heard is the oppressive voice, and the traditional voice that needs to be changed, right? The aggressors, exactly.
And that's also the thing, just to say about like conversation, and this is one thing like I'm really big on, is that a conversation has to happen with both sides. It can't just be one person talking to the same people, like even like LGBTQ rights. It can't just be, you're speaking only to LGBTQ audiences. No, you have to get these people that are maybe against you, or, like straight men or anybody involved. And that to me is the only way real change happens, and that's the only way you have a conversation. It has to be both sides, and also both sides respecting each other.
Absolutely.
And it's it's something that you can't expect somebody to hear you if you're not willing to hear them also.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing that I also see is kind of a little bit of a problem with a lot of things that are going on now.
Well, I think as a people, and Dan and I speak about this all the time, we don't do a good enough job of listening.
Yeah.
Like, and when people ask us, like, hey, how do you network? Like, dude, shut up and listen. Like, actually, like,
that's the best tip there is.
You want to develop
Seriously.
a relationship with somebody, shut up and ask a ton of questions and listen. And when they're like, you didn't listen to what I said, and you're like, no, this is exactly what you said in this exact kind of cadence. Like, we as a people, we're overstimulated with content and information, and sometimes it's easy to not pay attention to what's going on. It is, because there's so much going on. But we as a people do need to understand that we can only continue to progress from here if we listen to each other, because we're just becoming more interconnected.
And that's true. And what you said, that's very much sales. I was in sales. No. But
This got
It
sales.
is sales.
No, it is sales. No, but the whole thing is like shut up and listen with the networking thing. I was in my background. I sold cars for a living before I started getting on film, and that was the biggest thing. That's actually one of the things that they said. Listen. They said, you have to ask open-ended questions and listen to people. They said, you know what, you're failing your sale if you're doing most of the talking.
Absolutely.
Then that was the one thing. So just not to make it like a sales thing. It's a very profound, good conversation. But
Statistics show. So like, this is going to be nuts, and I apologize for going into statistics.
No, please.
I like this kind of information. 60% of a customer-facing call, or really any conversation where you're actually learning, is you listening.
Yeah.
20% more of that is you asking questions, and then the rest of it is you giving information. And we don't practice that within practical society. Everybody wants to listen to me. Like, no, dude, you're not that impressive. Like, I'll totally pass.
And even the people that are that impressive are the ones who are proactively practicing the listening.
100%.
Right? It's like an empty can makes a lot of noise if you kick it down the hall. I just made that one up. You guys can tell.
That was
Great
I thought that was like an old saying from back in the 60s. I'm like, wow, he knows his stuff.
Copyright.
Yeah, all right, we'll lock up on a copyright
We're going
console.
viral.
But, honestly, like that's what it comes down to. If you have a lot to say and you have a powerful stance, you don't need to keep repeating yourself and making it out there to be a lot of noise. You carry weight with what you say. And I think that's what's amazing about this film that you guys are producing, is that you're able to do it in a new light and just really kind of hit the scene heavily and just bring a lot of this insight with you, without having to, like, you're disrupting the scene without making it disruptive. What I'm getting at is I think the film is so powerful because you're tying it in as just a regular film, right? You're expressing someone in a everyday setting that they're experiencing. Without tying in a bunch of the stereotypes and things like that.
Right.
You're disrupting the scene without making a disruption, and I think that's powerful.
Thank you.
I'd like to jump in on that. I think, and 100% that's accurate. I think this is a conversation starter. We've been having the conversation slowly but surely, but this has the potential to be like, this is it. Like, this started the conversation in a big way. Whether 100 million people watch it or not is out of the question, but if it could start the conversation in a small way and grow from there, that's massive. So my question as a sales guy, how are you guys getting people to find out about what you're doing?
So, it's a lot of word of mouth, of course. There's social media. We have our Facebook page. We've spread out to a lot of the niche groups that, Facebook groups that we can, and trying to consistently post. Instagram. We have a website that we're like organizing right now, but it's not 100%. And then the biggest thing right now that we're doing is, and what's like really prevalent, is that we're doing a fundraising event, and it's going to be a panelist with two women. One is Wazina Zondon, and she's actually from Afghanistan, and she's a sex educator, and she's an out and proud lesbian.
Nice.
And the other is Iman El Husseini. She's also an out and proud lesbian, and she's from Palestine, and she's married to an Israeli woman. So there's that dynamic, and she's a comic. She's a comedian.
Oh wow.
So she's
great, by the way.
Yeah, and they're both really
amazing
women, and really empowered women, and really doing the change makers that we want to see, you know? So we put together a panel event, and we are having a fundraising for that, and then afterwards it's going to be followed with a reception, and there'll be live music, open bar, and finger foods, and just like a chance to network and talk to each other and talk to the panelists. And
how can this continue to live past that day? So I still have my tickets loading. So we're definitely going to be there. But how can this live past April 2nd? April 2nd, right?
Yeah, well, the only way that it can live past April 2nd is if we continue to try to find funding so that we can actually make the film. Once the film is made, then that will be the legacy that'll live on. That's the story that we want to tell. That's the whole reason why we're putting all of this together.
So yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with the event obviously is to, essentially what you were saying before, what she was saying, get the conversation going, but then also past this, I mean, again, it's just from what I've been trying, and this is the first time I've been executive producing, is I've just been, getting to the ground, going cold calling people, saying, hey, listen, this is a film we're doing. And that I kind of get from the sales background, just people I think that would be interested in getting involved with this project, because honestly, you never know. You know what I mean? Like, especially people that are donors of the arts, that are executive producers, which is pretty much anybody who's going to get the financing for a film.
Right.
I mean, I also researched like other films. That's the one thing I looked at, how they got their funding.
Smart.
And executive producers could be like, anybody, like a dentist, a lawyer, just somebody who has a lot of money from real estate that really likes your project, or even like sponsorships too. It's a little harder with that, because a lot of times like sponsors want to do like a big event, or like have a lot of eyes on it, or like have exposure. But I mean, that's the thing, is what I'm realizing, because again, I'm no expert in this kind of thing, but what I'm realizing is like there's no magic formula. You just gotta try as much as you can to get your name out there, and just call, honestly.
Absolutely.
The worst thing they could say is no, and then that's it.
And going on with that, like, when we first started this, we automatically got fiscal sponsored. So at first we were looking for grants, and we were applying, and we never got any. So then we were like, okay, what's the next step? What else can we do if we're not going to be able to get grants? Because grants are really hard, especially for first-time filmmakers.
Absolutely.
So we went fiscal sponsorship route, and we got it. So we're 501c3 approved, which means we're nonprofit. You can get a tax write-off.
Excellent.
And most of the other filmmakers that we talk to, they're like, oh, that's Keith, that's golden. Or a lot of people say that, and I'm like, okay, that's great, but now what? You know what I mean? Like, and then when I tell people like
Absolutely.
how much we need for the film, like what the actual cost is, everybody's like, oh, that's nothing in New York. Like, New York, that's nothing. Like, you can get that. You can totally get that. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, where?
Can you do it for us?
Yeah, like, how? Where? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I believe you. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a lot of money. We're not looking for a lot of money. But, like, where? How?
Yeah.
What avenues do we go to? Like, we're trying here.
Here's the other thing that I find that I found difficult, just because I'm coming from a sales background, right? So when I was selling stuff, and I was, I did well for myself, thank God. But when I was selling something, I was selling a tangible product.
Absolutely.
Right? I'm selling a car. This is a car that has X features. This is why it's good for you. This is this. The price is right. I'm lower than everybody else. What's very different about this is, number one, it's a short film.
Yeah.
So short films, you can get a return on it. I don't want to say necessarily that you can't, but it's very different than a feature that I can go ahead and sell to like Netflix, or could sell to a distributor.
Sure.
So it's like you're kind of selling this idea of something that isn't made yet. You're kind of asking people, especially as like first-time filmmakers or people that are new in the industry, that you don't have a name attached, to really believe in you and believe in your idea when you have really nothing, not a whole lot to show for it.
Absolutely.
We don't have any famous actors. We don't have like a famous person around it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah,
how
man.
then? Yeah, well, okay, maybe now we got famous person. But it's like, the challenges that I come is like, how do you get people to see you as legitimate? How do you get people to see you as serious? And how do you get people to kind of take a chance on you?
Of course.
Because I also look at it as if I was the investor in their position, why would I invest in you? What's so special about you?
Yeah.
So I would ask then the follow-up question is, how are you presenting this as a value proposition,
Yeah.
right? So we know, because we just had that conversation before about what you're trying to achieve with the video. And, it's going to be breakthrough. It's going to challenge a lot of barriers. How are you presenting that?
Well, exactly like that. We're presenting it in terms of like, you have to kind of show the emotional connection. Why it's important to you, why this story means something to you. So hopefully it can mean something to somebody else. And that's when I speak to people, I try to convey that. Just try to go with that intention. I mean, it's worked. We've gotten funding, so it's worked. In one sense, we keep going with it. But that's how I'm doing it. I'm not sure in which way. Everybody else, but like
kind of try and do it like in that way. But then I also try and say like, listen, it's a short right now, you know what I mean, and like that's how it's gonna live because that's what that's the ability that we have right now. However, like if we do well, like we want to expand it into a feature, and then you will totally have opportunity to get a return on investment.
Yeah.
So question for you,
Which is true. Like that's true. Like we
listeners
do
and
want
everybody
to
else,
make it.
how do you define a short film?
Anywhere from 2 to under 20 minutes.
Okay.
Right? Like
I believe so. I mean,
no. Shorts are 2 to 5.
No, they could range from anything. I mean, feature length, I'm not 100% the industry standard.
Okay.
Like, and nobody quote me on this.
Sure, it's
First
not
out.
like
But I think it's like,
only gonna go on a blog as well.
I believe it's like probably around like 90 minutes, something like that is
Okay.
considered like a feature length.
Sure.
And shorts can range. They can range anywhere from like a minute up until like, 40 minutes, sometimes shorts.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on the industry standard, but that's kind of like rule, I guess,
Yeah.
a little bit of a rule of thumb. And
So-
sorry guys that I'm not informed 100% on that, but
It's
I'm
all right.
guessing it sounds like maybe 80% right.
okay.
It's close enough.
What I would challenge you guys to do, and so I'm building a software company.
Right.
So
okay.
I face a lot of the challenges you guys face, where it's like, okay, well, you've never done this before. I have a ton of sales experience.
Right.
Super high level sales experience. I know what I'm doing. I've done a ton of consulting as well, so I know what I'm doing, but I've never done this before. And it's kind of what you guys are facing too. So one of the things that I've always noticed out of investors, and you guys have had success, and I'm lucky because I don't have to go out to find investors. I can fund it myself for the most part. And then there's going to be a critical mass where we're going to have to actually go raise money. But one of the biggest things that I've found out of investors is the keyword traction. So my challenge to you guys is, how can you identify your audience in this initial event? So if you get 100 people to go to the Eventbrite show, but you get 10,000 people to sign up to your email list, and you'll just send them stuff or whatever it may be, that's traction where they're like, okay, cool, well, they did this and all they had was 10 grand or 1,000 or whatever the budget was, or like you didn't advertise, like,
Right.
so like understanding all of that, like they actually got this off of word of mouth, that means people actually want this kind of content. So now you can quantify it for them. You can't put a dollar figure on it. It's really difficult, right? Like you're stabbing in the dark at that time, and then you get into I'm going to get really technical. You get into far more complicated things like conversion rates.
Yeah.
It's way.
No, I mean, I
So it
only know
becomes
this
a
because of
lot.
sales.
Yeah, it becomes a lot. But what I would kind of say is like, how can you build an email list? Even if it's just like having 1,000 people that sign up to your list and it just goes to Google Sheets or something like that, and like how many people are actually engaging? Do you want to create a community on Facebook or
Yeah.
Reddit, and like I have 15,000 Redditors, or 10 or 1,000, whatever. But like that's at that point, from a fundraising perspective, it's showing, okay, well, people are actually interested in this and they're doing this for free.
Yeah.
Because that's the big thing.
Okay.
Like if a customer is going to come and like talk to you or talk to your brand for free, investors love that because it's like, okay, well, we just got to find out how to make money now. And whether that's a movie or it may be merchandising, and you can find some way to be conscious with some of the money that you make, If it is more philanthropic, seeing as you guys are a
501c3.
501c3.
Okay, I was gonna say 503.
Yeah.
Oh, she's missing a.
It's been a while.
Fiscal
bro.
sponsored.
Yes, seeing as you're a 501, right? Like, there's a lot of creative things that are happening within business now, where there's conscious capitalism, which is a term I love. I don't know if people talk. I don't feel people talk about it enough.
No,
It's starting to get
I've
traction.
never heard of that before.
Yeah, so it's like for example, to get a T-shirt silk screen off of a drop shipper, so a company that's gonna print it for you and then ship it for you, it could be like $10, and you sell it for $25. There's companies out there that are taking that extra $15 of profit and donating it to a charity, or using it for philanthropic causes, like what you're doing. So there's a lot of really creative ways to kind of look at it. I think it's just identifying what makes the most sense.
And I have a question. So just going back to what you were saying about traction. So are you, obviously that's exactly what you want to do with the film, right? Create an audience, because those are the people that are, again, going to view it. But are you saying to use that traction and kind of as leverage to get potential investors? And if so, is it only going to be on social media? We have to have it quantified in terms of followers and emails.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't, I spoke to 10,000 people.
Right. No,
Well,
no,
I
I
did too.
know. I understand
And
that.
I got a bridge.
So then it's kind of I mean,
Right.
obviously, I could say, I spoke to 20,000 people. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I made 20,000 calls, bro.
So,
Yeah.
question for you, just on that trend. Have you tried to utilize any outside the box social media activations that
And-
could get people involved? So, just
Define
a couple,
activation.
Yeah,
so
please.
activation is like a call to action, something that you can challenge other people to do to get involved that will support the cause. That's maybe auxiliary to it and not directly associated with the film. So just off the top of my head, right? Just thinking of one out loud. What if you created a challenge where you got people from the LGBTQ community that are also Muslim to do one of those things where they hold up a card in front of their mouth that has a couple sentences written on it about their story, or challenge them to do a short 5 to 10 second video clip saying my name is, I support blah blah, whatever, you know what I mean, however you're going to convey the message. Some sort of outside the box activation like that could pick up traction associated with the hashtag, of course, and then utilize it and start pushing it. And to get the traction started, I'm sure you know some people in that community already that you can tap into to get the first 10, 15 posted, and then maybe take it to a couple of social media influencers and say, hey, this fits in with your demographic. This is what we're trying to achieve with our film.
Yeah.
We think it would be powerful for you and would really speak to your audience if you participated in this challenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Or
even
something like that,
understanding and leading with, this is a nonprofit. We're not making money off of this. This is being done purely for awareness. The LGBTQ community, I would assume, so I can't speak for everybody, but I would assume these kinds of causes, with the amount of conversation that's behind these topics right now, would be much more inclined to say, hey, I have 1 million followers, or I have 100,000 or whatever. They won't charge you for that kind of stuff, I would assume. So don't quote me on that, but I'd feel extremely inclined that they would do something like that. And I would even say, if that, I love that idea, if you were to do that, try not to align it with a religion or a culture, and put it more from the perspective, because it's not just Muslim people that have to deal with this.
Right.
There's hyper-Christian or Catholic people, there's Protestants, that Jewish people, that they just can't come out on this kind of stuff, and they have an old school family that's not really going to accept that, so they will find that they'll identify with the struggle.
I have a question for you, just because, again, I'm very new to this in social media. So for social influencers, just on a question for that, how do you even go about approaching them? And you mentioned, some will do it
Slide
for free.
into your DM.
Right?
Slide in those DMs.
But then also,
Down,
do they
yeah,
actually?
yeah,
So
it goes down.
That's
I think I got it now.
Real quick.
But do they actually charge money for?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh wow!
Some
So
of
they're
these people
making money
charge
off
a lot,
of
yeah.
that. Wow.
Yeah, they're making a
So
killing.
that's the
They're
new.
making a killing.
Okay.
I feel really old right now.
Yeah.
Not
Hand
good with
over
social
fist
media.
money.
There was this
So
whole.
that's how they're
There's
making
people that are
money.
making $125,000 per post.
What?
Yeah.
To put some
I think,
lip balm up.
That's like the new. So that's the new advertising
a
essentially.
lot,
That's
yeah,
the trend.
100%.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, they're making
I
that
know an
much.
advertising agency
I-
that just focuses on influencer marketers.
Wow.
And they're legit, 30 employees, and they're studs. And they show you the stats, and it's How do you get all this
So
information?
these like Instagram
And this
people
is
and
natural,
like these
yeah.
like wow.
Like Kim Kardashian, I think she got $250,000 for like a Super Bowl.
Well, she's the one.
placement or
Technically
something?
speaking, wasn't she the one that kind of started this whole like? She's one
Right,
of
she's
the
she's
pioneers,
innovators,
maybe.
Yeah.
We'll say
Trailblazer,
pioneer.
Yeah, pioneer is a great
We'll
term.
go with that.
She's a trailblazer.
I mean, I would say though, but like based
I
on
mean,
the whole
hey,
career.
listen, talk all the shit you want, but she's fucking doing the damn
Yeah,
thing.
she's
That's
Oh,
I was
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
say.
She's doing it.
Yeah.
She created snow. Did you see that for New Year's? She brought snow in to LA and created a winter wonderland. Like
Must have
that's
been that
how
one
much.
that she
That's
created
how much
snow.
money.
She can manipulate the elements, guys. No,
No, like that's how much money.
Well, Kylie
she
Jenner's a
has.
millionaire now.
Yeah.
she had that
But,
beat.
but
And here we
honestly,
are.
and you're
Yeah.
right. Everybody does talk a lot about them, but you have to say, you know what? They are entrepreneurs
I
because
respect
their
their
life
hustle.
is their
Yeah.
business. Their
Yeah.
reality TV shows their business. I mean, they managed
Yeah.
to make like something that could be embarrassing to some people.
Yeah.
That's what's hard.
Millions and millions of
Yeah.
dollars, and I'm like, wow, that's a business.
Yeah, I
mind
respect
right
the
there.
hustle. As an entrepreneur, you gotta respect the hustle.
You have to.
I won't jump out the window and say she was the first person to do it, but
No,
I will
but
say
like
she's
one
a
of the-
trailblazer.
one of the
yeah,
first,
she's
one of the
she's
first.
yeah, she's
Yeah.
definitely one of the innovators that brought it to prominence, and she saw the value in it very early on.
Right.
So in terms of audience, I think, and this is just like at your event, what I would say is like find a way to, I don't know, man, find a way to like highlight somebody's story or something. Like Humans in New York, what they were doing with Instagram, that was phenomenal. They have, I don't know how many they have now, but I know at the time they were getting like tens of thousands, if not hundreds of
They have
thousands
the
of
best
likes on some of the
stories.
posts. Yeah, I used to
They
watch
have
them
the
like
best
I feel
stories.
like,
Yeah,
all right, I
amazing.
feel better about myself right now because I could have it a lot worse. Or like I'm gonna go find somebody on the street and help them today. So if you guys could do something like that, that'd be really strong. But audiences, the best audience you could have, as crazy as this is gonna sound, is not social media. The social media audience is super fickle. And somebody wrote about this past week. They were talking, so Facebook and Instagram went down for like the whole day.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they said, all right, so how many people's businesses stopped? Mine didn't. I have a fat email list. I'll send an email out right now and like get whatever conversions I have to get, etc. So as soon as you say, I'm going to live in here, because what happened with MySpace?
Right. Platform dies, your
What
brand
happened
dies.
with Friendster?
Oh man,
It's hard to
MySpace
convert.
and Friendster. I
What
forgot
happened to
about
Tumblr?
those.
I don't even know what Friendster is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What happened to
There you go.
StoneX, right? Like there's all these things.
Yeah, I
and-
don't even know what
and
that is.
Facebook and like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they're all powerful platforms. But I always err on the side of how can you get out of that and like let that be augmented content.
Mm.
Don't lead with. I mean, like so like, it's great, but that's also great for like it's a pretty picture.
Right.
Or that's a video that has colors that are like that I reflect with, or I just kind of want to engage with. So I'm gonna watch the video, and I may just swipe after 15 seconds. So it's how do you get out of that? Because email is personal. It's like, hey, Brian, this, and this. You can be a lot more personal.
I would
Or
say.
even cell phones, which
Yeah.
that's super under. I feel like people don't talk about that a lot. You can have somebody's mobile number, the conversion rate's like 5 times the email.
Well, I was gonna say this just from what my experience has been with this, and also just being in sales. I'm more like face to face. Like I want to. This is the only reason I even go for an email or a phone number, and this is like car business or whatever. But I'm always
Sure.
like, I want to get face to face with you. I want to get in a room with you, and I want to speak to you. It's all for like getting to that appointment because. You know, anybody that has invested in this film, it's when you sat down and had a face-to-face conversation with them. Because then they actually could see you, they can
Yeah.
feel you. And that's the thing, like for me, this is why maybe I don't tend to be, I'm really bad with social media, and I recognize that, and I'm also realize that in this business I need to kind of get better at it. But I'm very much like face-to-face, and even when somebody's selling me, like I'm not going to do it over email,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it over the phone. It's if I met you personally, spoke to you, got a chance to look in your eyes.
Sure.
Yeah.
The email wouldn't be for fundraising. It'd be for audience.
Right.
So like, and I agree with you. I like being in front of people. Like,
Right.
Whenever I do a free consulting session, except for on the video, I always tell people like, hey, I'll sit down with you for free. You just got to buy me a beer because I'm talking to you and you're getting my years of knowledge for free. So like, I need
That's a
something
cheap
back.
price, a beer.
It's like a fat
There's a
beer.
bar
you know,
around the
like,
corner, we should
yeah. But like following on that, and maybe that is your brand being super personal. And if it is, who says you can't do a YouTube video? Like, hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah.
This is our, like, the both of you. Like, hey, this is what's going on with our video, and give people some kind of update. Because people will dial in on that. They'll watch it.
Double down on that, right? Do the activation at your event that you have coming up. Are you familiar with what a step and repeat is?
No.
So a step and repeat are those big signs that they have with like all the logos on it from the sponsors, and you would have the
Right.
brand logo that
Yeah.
people walk up, they take a picture, and then they keep going, and so they call it a step and repeat, right?
Oh, okay.
So what you could even do is maybe have the cards there available, and as people are coming in, let them take a picture, but then also challenge them to write a quick note about what you're doing in support of or whatever, and hold the card up, take the picture.
It's a good idea to have like certain phrases
That's
and
a
stuff.
I
great
identify.
Right? Or I
idea.
identify.
Hashtag
something like that.
I identify.
Something like that. Powerful. Yeah, that's super
Yeah.
powerful.
Because
If
now
you
it's like,
steal that,
take
don't
it.
try to take
No, please, that's what this is
No,
for.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, this is for-
that's you. That's you. I hope that
it-
works.
it does
well, this
have
is going to go on
such a-
YouTube.
Yeah. So
So everybody's gonna know it was your idea first.
No.
that's fine. Well, it's
You gotta
like it's the
execute.
mastermind
No, of
activity.
course, of
the brains
course.
all like tap into each other, and that's
Yeah.
where the crazy ideas come from.
No, and that's a great idea, and a lot of it also there's just one thing that I did when I originally started doing this. Actually, Seed and Spark, it's a really good crowdfunding thing. But the better thing is that they actually had videos, and I know you watched them too.
Yeah.
Which a lot of them, they said a lot of this stuff, and it was specifically geared towards like independent filmmakers.
Mm.
I would say as a crowdfunding platform, and that's like a whole different thing. It's like something that I'm not again too familiar with. But doing those educational videos, they said a lot of stuff like this, doing activation and everything like that.
Sure.
So it does make a lot of sense, and that's a really great idea.
Yeah, I love it. I'm definitely doing it.
You know?
Yeah.
I
That's
think that'd be
wonderful.
really powerful. Even if you then, because those are each individually one post, right?
Right.
2 hours later.
So where were we going with that? Oh yeah, so each of those photos are an individual post on Instagram that you can utilize, but then you can also take all of them and make a compilation video of each image like flashing with some kind of voiceover speaking to it,
Yeah.
even talking about the film, talking about the message, right? Because I think going back to what we were talking about with, people support you because of why you do it, not what you do.
Right.
So if you're going to tell them that, we are making this video, that's awesome. But when you start telling them about the why and how it impacts the social dynamics and the family dynamics back in whatever country somebody may be from, and even here in the United States, when you talk to that and then couple it with the activation, it shows support, it shows unity, and people start to get on trends like that.
Absolutely.
And it becomes like a landslide.
And even to dial in on that, you guys are artists, right? I actually think artists are better marketers than business people. Because you guys think about this emotionally. Most business people are like, oh, this is exactly what I do. And there's no emotion in it. You're not really reflecting. There's no empathy in your content. I would say build a story around it. Like a full-on, so I like my one-pagers. If I'm sending somebody more than a one-pager, it's probably because I was doing a report. But my proposals are one page, my executive summaries are one page. When I'm doing a meeting with my team, it's a one-pager. If it's more than one page, I tell them to go rewrite it. Because if it's more than a one page, now you're just rambling. If you can't fit it all on one page, you're not concise, you're not direct, you're challenging yourself to be really, really specific. So I would kind of say, and even with pitch, which is kind of what Dan was talking about, is what do you do, how are you doing it, and then why are you doing it? And then flip that. So why are you doing it? Open up with that. Our mission with this is to bring awareness to this. And then this is how we're looking to do it, and then this is exactly what we're looking to do. Having that story, from a sales perspective, salespeople don't think about this. Most salespeople don't think about this. 80% of salespeople, maybe 90% of salespeople don't even, seriously, don't consider it this way. I was on the phone with somebody today, and I was like, dude, I'm not doing business with you guys. Stop calling me. Because she kept rambling, and I'm like, it's nothing against you, I just don't like your company. And you're not helping it right now because you're just rambling and you're not listening to me. So if she would have had a better story, I'd be like, oh yeah, hell yeah, let's try this out again. Had a bad experience one time, but maybe it changed because now I have somebody different.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I definitely say come up with a quick little story, a couple sentences.
You're talking about a story in terms of us personally?
To pitch.
To pitch,
To pitch or give information out.
Because I was going to say, in a film, you do that also, you do a log line, which is telling the whole story in that, or a synopsis. But, I mean, actually, somebody at the same networking event we went to, she said kind of the same thing. She's like, well, why you? You know what I mean? And that's, but that whole flipping it, why you do it first, leading with that's actually really, I thought of it like that, that's actually really good advice.
Even if you think about when you listen to a speaker, if they start droning and they don't tell you the why first, you tune them out. We have social media, we have smartphones. You see everybody's head goes down and now they're on the phone. if you tell them the why, that's when you really engage with people and they start to feel you as opposed to just hear you.
100% makes sense.
Okay, so this is all great, and this sounds like, we would be collecting emails and really getting our Instagram and our social media audience to grow.
How do we bring it back to the money?
How do we bring it back to give me the money?
Show me the money now.
So
Is that okay? Is that a good transition?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%. So I guess my
Okay.
question for you is, like, what does the money look like?
Like, what's our budget?
No, well,
Oh.
so,
Like,
well, what does
I'll
that
tell you.
mean?
Right. What is that?
So you said getting back to the money. So what does that mean? And like, just for context, when I have a conversation with a client, they're like, well, I'm going to need a lot of money. Okay, well, what you consider to be a lot of money is not what I consider to be a lot of money. Because I have clients in one of my businesses say, I want $4 million. And I'm like, okay, well, a lot of money for me would have been 20. So you sound like a dick right now.
Yeah.
Right? So like, let's like, you don't sound like
Now we're
a dick,
PG-13.
you don't sound like a dick. But what does that mean? Like, what aspect of the money are you talking about?
How do we get money funneling into our account so that we are able to make the film? Like, we have a account set up. We have
Yeah.
a source where we can have money come in. You know what I mean? We have all of the tools, like the outlets and things that we need. Like, we just need to find the people that want to give us the money.
So I think that comes around with, and expand on this in a second, but that's the value proposition that we started with, right?
100%.
So now, instead of just having the film, which is powerful by itself, because you can't create the film without the money, right? It's like
Right.
the chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
With the value proposition and creating some kind of activation, showing, like Brian was talking to, the social interaction and the social engagement and the spending of social capital from the public, now you're getting that exposure from people who may be able to just personally give you a check.
Yeah.
And they'll say, I personally connect with this. I personally have $50, $100, $200,000 that I can give you. Let's make this happen.
Yeah.
Also, the bigger brands we were talking about too. I know we touched upon a while ago when we were chatting about things like Red Bull, getting them involved, social conscious brands.
Nike,
Nike
like
maybe.
they did the whole thing with
Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Right?
No, with
Instead
the
of-
Muslim girl. She's a Muslim sports girl. She
Oh,
plays soccer.
right.
She had a
Oh,
hijab.
absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
They made a Nike hijab.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, it goes beyond just saying this is what we're doing with the film. Now you're showing them that it's having a social impact and direct impact on the culture. They want to align themselves with that because that's invaluable. That's something that they can't put a price on, but by funding you, they can.
Yeah.
So it's a way for them to leverage themselves and get wild exposure
And it's
to their
social
direct market.
responsibility. That's what
Exactly.
a lot of these guys are after that. Gucci just announced their $15 million, I think they're donating to minority causes, and another $5 million in something else. So like these companies, they need that social responsibility because it helps them with their branding. And some of these companies actually want to do good, and then some of these companies just want to do it because they believe that they'll tap into a new demographic. Either way, it benefits you because you're pushing your mission forward.
And I was going to say, just off of that, it is a really good idea. The only thing that because I've been researching it with like
Sure.
Red Bull and Heineken, is that sometimes it's like they have a super specific criteria. Like Red Bull, for example, only does like sports related things, and
Okay.
Heineken only does like, I think it was like Latin something kind of films for their funding. So it's just which is great. I mean, listen, they all have their things. It's the same thing with grants. When we're trying to apply for short film grants, which are very far and few between, it's like very super specific. So I guess in that sense, it's just like biggest thing that I find with trouble is that is, you're right, there are brands like that, but how do you find the right brand for you? Like where are they listed? How do you know? Is it just like, you know what I mean? There's nowhere, I don't see anywhere they're listed unless like there is a place
so
that they are.
What I would tell you to do is this. You would be surprised by the amount of databases and kinds of databases that exist online. So I've found databases for virtually every industry I could imagine.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure there's a database of people that just like to invest in art, expecting no return. Because there's people that are just gross. They just have a gross amount of money, and they don't ever believe they're ever going to spend it.
Yeah.
And there's some people that have a lot of money that they may not have any kids and nobody to give it to, so they're just looking to invest it somewhere.
Oh,
So
where
it could
can
be
I
like an
find those
angel
people?
funds.
So these
Like,
data.
that's like angel versus VC. Like angel is
Except-
not expecting the full return. correct me if
Right,
I'm wrong.
right.
Like, venture
Angels are
capital is
willing
more-
to take more of a risk,
risk.
versus
Yeah.
a venture capital. Well, it's not 100% aligned with what you guys do, but I would kind of like what Dan's saying, like understand that relationship between an angel investor and a venture capital investor.
Right.
Again, that's not. Don't
Applicable
talk
for
to that
this.
audience. I
Right.
don't think that's what's gonna get this for you. But I think looking at some of the art foundations, Googling like. I'm pretty sure there's a database out there of people who just want to invest in art.
I've been trying. I'm trying to find them. I mean, if they you know,
Google.
if you find this database,
Yeah.
this mysterious database, please
Yeah.
let me know.
I'll send it over.
Yeah, that'd be
Maybe
super,
even
super
also
helpful.
like reverse engineer it. Like look in social media trends and see who just screwed up their public relations with this demographic.
Oh, there you go.
And maybe wanting to do something to try
That,
and rectify
actually.
that.
Yeah.
So if they just had a scandal in the news or something like that, you can reach out to their PR department and say, boy, do I have an opportunity for you. Like, are you serious about trying to make a change? Are you
That's
serious
solid.
about
Here's
trying
the-
to rectify your brand?
The only thing I would say to that, that's a great idea, but I would get scared with that then turn off our base audience.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? That would be the only thing, because
If
that
they
is
do
a great
something.
idea, but then if I have the association, like say I'm doing a movie, just for example, about like a rape victim, and
Sure.
I get somebody like Harvey Weinstein to be like, hey, you want to help
Okay,
with the PR?
right, sure. So
that's the
that's
only,
not
that's
the approach you wanna
yeah,
take.
no, that, I mean, it sounds
Right.
like a good idea, would be the best thing, but that would be, just
Yeah.
off of that would be my only concern. Like
You also
then,
got to
Absolutely.
maintain integrity too. So
Right.
it's definitely
Of course. And you
way-
want to
way
balance
down.
that on the scale.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Like I don't think we would approach Harvey Weinstein, but let's say somebody that you know what I mean, like said something like
It's
out
just
of
that was
context.
ignorant.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
ignorant. It wasn't like 100%
Yeah.
wrong, but it was
Right.
ignorant. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, like, dude, actually, we've crossed this 20 years ago, but we know you're not a racist. Like,
Right, right. Like that whole Kevin Hart thing that he was supposed to host the Oscars, and then
Yeah.
they went
Oh, yeah.
all the way back, like when he first
Yeah,
started.
that was original.
Way back, yeah. And he had said like a slur about that was sounded homophobic, I think,
Yeah.
or whatever.
It
And
was
he
a
had
joke
since
about the LGBTQ.
right, and he had since apologized for it.
yeah.
And it was now in the like present, and they were like, "No, you need to publicly apologize again before we can make you host." And he was like, "I'm not apologizing again. I said that way back when. I was ignorant then. I apologized for it once. I'm not doing it again."
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
You know, and I was like, "Damn, I kind of feel Kevin Hart. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I
Like I
respect
kind of
that, yeah.
understand him. Yeah."
He should
So
have
he was like,
apologized.
"I don't care. I'm not hosting."
Well, yeah, and that's the whole thing. It's like, especially nowadays with everything on video and photos, like, can you ever escape your past? Because people are constantly
Yeah.
changing. You know, yeah, some
Right to
people.
forget.
That's exactly
Listen.
his point. He's like, I've changed so much
Right.
and grown so much since then.
Like, I don't want to be judged for past mistakes that I've then reconciled with. Because, yeah, listen, everybody, I'm sure all of us can start and name stupid things we did, stupid things we said, you know, stuff that we've then learned from. And that's a whole part of life, is learning from your mistakes and growing from it. And to hold that against him, I didn't know. And again, this is where I'm kind of like under a rock. I didn't know that was the whole thing with it.
Sure.
But that's crazy that they would, you know,
I would-
hold them people accountable like that.
I would also tell you in terms of getting to the money or getting funding or finding capital to start this project, I would 100% recommend you find an artist that identifies with what you're looking to communicate, and see if you could come out with some kind of content, some merch, anything, where it's like, hey, like this can help us fund this. And I don't necessarily know too much about how you could do that from a tax perspective, but I believe there are ways where you could have like a separate entity, take the profits from there and just invest into the nonprofit. So you're not getting taxed in the nonprofit funds, because it is fundraising. You
Right,
are
right.
raising money. It's not for profit. It is for something greater.
Well, I mean, and we have that. We're under that umbrella where we, you know, it is
Okay.
nonprofit. Like
Yeah.
we are legally nonprofit.
Legally, you can't generate profit though. So that's where it gets like funky. So you may have to talk to a tax accountant. You may have to create a separate entity. But if creating a separate entity means you can fundraise $50, $100, $200,000, that'll work. The other thing, start a GoFundMe.
We have one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're gonna send me the link because this is going at the bottom right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd say the GoFundMe at the event itself, like, hey guys, we're doing this if you identify what we're doing, this is a massive issue. The other thing that I'm gonna sound like a super sales guy on, get some stats. What percentage of the global population is estimated to be LGBTQ? And then say, okay, cool, so 3 in every 10 people on the face of this earth are a part of this culture. There are X amount of people within this culture. Just kind of have some statistics.
Yeah,
So,
but
like, that are impacted daily by
This could be 3
challenges.
million Afghani people.
I would say, I mean, just probably playing a little devil's advocate, it's such a hard statistic to get, because understanding most of these people will never, you know, say anything about it. Like any even little inclination is like completely looked down upon. And I get what you mean in terms of that, but I feel like that's a hard statistic to get.
I would even then say, use the statistic you have and then say, this doesn't even begin to encompass.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say,
the
because I'm
amount of
sure,
people who
like,
are
you know,
impacted by this.
I kind of, so like I have, so just out of nature of what I've done for my career, I've gotten really good at researching stuff, and most reports will actually estimate the opposite. So if it's like, so we know 30% of this culture is this.
Right.
Okay, we suspect that another 20% are living in the closet.
Right.
And they don't want to come out because of fear of this, and this.
Oh, fair enough.
So again, it's building this whole story. It's not easy. This isn't gonna happen tomorrow.
No, of
No.
course.
I
not.
kind of wish you would have talked 3 months ago, because you
Me
would have got
too.
way more runway.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this would have been so helpful. And I mean, you know what? It's also good in a sense that we're having it now, because now we know, like, okay, what's worked a little bit, what hasn't worked, and this is honestly like so helpful for you guys to like even just like the sales pitch and how to say it. It's you know it's very good information.
I think the big challenge is people don't understand the fact that business is not a one and done. It's phases. So like, there's a growth phase, there's a re-strategizing phase, there's a preparation stage. Like a lot of what I like to do, and I kind of tug Dan along with me, I like to front load all my content. I don't sit down and write an article every week. No, I wrote a 40-page ebook, and we're gonna break that down and put that in the blog post. Why would I do that the opposite way? I'm just gonna be stressed out about it.
Yeah.
So people like that's the big thing, is understanding phases. So I kind of next question for you guys is, what do you guys believe your next phase will be? Understanding what we've spoken about.
I think definitely the call to action is definitely something that we're going to be like working on. And I think looking into statistics and also looking into companies and brands that like back us up. I've already started reaching out to some artists within the community. Like there's this artist, her name is Ariana Saeed, and she is like changing the game for Afghan pop music, especially being a woman.
Outstanding.
Like she is just somebody that's like amazing. So I reached out to her company and her production
Are
company.
you from Queens?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a rapper out here. I don't remember his name, but he got this awesome song. He's signed to Nas.
Oh no way.
Yeah, he's sick.
We're in Nasland right now.
Yeah,
We're right here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll send you
Yeah.
his info too, and reach out to him and his people.
Yeah,
Both
for
from
sure.
Afghan
That'd be
as
awesome.
well.
Oh wow.
wow.
Afghan rapper. That's
That's awesome.
And he's like, I think he went gold, or he's probably on his way to go platinum.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, if
Yeah.
Nas is invested in it, you know he has to be good.
Yeah. He's
Yeah, I
dope.
mean, yeah, that's another thing, yeah.
I would just say also, because I can't do one interview without using the word synergy, so now I'm going to use it all the time. So I would be looking,
Synergistic.
synergistic. It's coming.
Okay, great.
I'm setting it up. So, synergy is my favorite word, hands down. Like I should have it tatted across my back. I really do love this word. I think it's so powerful. Are you familiar with synergy?
Why don't
So,
you give me your
to define,
definition?
Yes.
Synergy is when two individual parts create something that's greater than the sum of their individual wholes, right? So if we all work together right here, we're coming up with better ideas working together than if Brian and I sat down and came up with ideas and the two of you came up with ideas separately. It's not going to be as good as us all meshing our brains together. So why reinvent the wheel? There are so many organizations, especially in New York, that already have significant followings. Approaching them not from can you do this for us value standpoint, but again, going back to that why and showing them what you can do for them could be really nice to tap into their audiences and being able to get up, like you said, that face-to-face and give a quick pitch for a couple of minutes just in front of their crowd. Talking about what you're doing, why you're doing, and how you intend to do it. could be really powerful.
I would say for this, just actually a question for you guys in terms of like how we could structure a pitch, because again, it's a short film, and because again, there's no like kind of tangible product. How do you say, like, in terms of like what you're saying, like what we could do for them? What do you feel like would be then like the offer?
So there are audiences out there that are looking for amazing breakthrough ideas like yours, and they want to be informed about that.
Okay.
Right? That's important to them.
Yeah.
They want to be on the forefront of that kind of stuff. They're like the early adapters. So if you can find a way to provide that content to them, especially we're in a 24-hour news cycle right now, right? You see some of the garbage that's out there in the news. They literally are grasping at straws trying to come up with good stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
So if you can provide them with quality content that will connect with their audience and their crowd, there's no reason they wouldn't want to talk to you about it, and they wouldn't want to hear about what you're doing.
I would also say one other thing too. Your offer should be a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
It's either money or resources.
Right.
You're not talking to anybody else for anything else than that, because there's no other value you can bring. What resources can you provide, or can you provide the capital so we could go out and acquire those resources? Right. This is super simple. The other thing that I'm going to say that is now one of my favorite concepts is network effects. So kind of what Dan was saying, if there's an established community already out there, how do you tap into those network effects? So as soon as you put your content in front of a new community with 1 million active users or 1,000 active users, if those active users are super dialed in on what you're doing, that's all you need. Because they'll go refer all their friends. Their friends will refer their friends by virtue of like reflecting with it and identifying with it. A lot of the content that I share with Dan, I know Dan shares it with like 3-4 other people, and vice versa. He tells me about a book, I tell 10 other people about a book, and vice versa.
And playing off of that too, just going back to the influencer space, don't focus just on macro influencers, right? There are micro influencers out there, similar to what Brian's saying, with 8,000, 12,000 followers that are hyper engaged and really, really love their content and are passionate about what they're talking about. And those people, you'll see their interaction rates are significantly higher than the 6-7% that you might see on a macro influencer brand. So getting to 10 of those could be powerful. And again, 24-hour news cycle, they're looking for things to talk about. So giving them content that they can use and promote, it positions them as an influencer to their brand, and it shows that they're knowledgeable, they're thought leaders, and that's the kind of things they're looking to engage with.
So those are our resources. That's what we're offering them, that they're knowledgeable, they're thought leaders, this is important to them, this is content for them.
This is something your brand and your followers want to hear about.
Yeah, because otherwise they're like on a whiteboard or a vision board trying to figure out what they're going to do next. It's like, hey guys, we got a great idea for you. You want to go test this out, put our name on it?
Yeah.
And again, have like that one pager ready to go.
Super concise.
Like, just a boilerplate document
So-
that's not longer than one page that can just give that information to them.
My favorite structure is what's the problem you're solving, what's your mission statement, what's your business opportunity or project opportunity. So this may not be a 100% business opportunity as this is a nonprofit venture.
You can talk about the vision though for the next step of how you want to transition it to a feature film or a series or whatever.
So that would go in there. So it's like this is what we would need to, I guess, validate the market, and then after that, talk about what your team looks like. And in there, feel free to talk about other things that are going on within your industry, but try to keep it to one page. I think that's really, really critical. There was one other thing I wanted to bring up.
Well, actually, before you, while you're thinking, the last time I met with you, you actually told me something as well that was really valuable, and I forgot what platform you gave me to look at, and you were like, look into
Reddit.
Nonprofits. No, but we had a whole
Reddit,
we had a
Reddit.
whole Reddit conversation as well, like how we both could get into like holes in Reddit. You know what I mean? Like fall right through the rabbit hole.
cesspit that can also be really powerful. But
Yeah.
like, it's just you can fall down.
So Reddit's gonna replace Facebook and Twitter.
It has to.
It's gonna happen.
I don't even use it, which is bad.
I do.
But then again, I'm also like,
But
I'm
it's,
like,
also like
intimidating
10
at
years
first,
behind
but
on
Yeah.
Once
social
you
media.
touch it
so.
though,
So what
and you like get a hang of it, and you find some good stuff. It's
So
like,
am I
okay,
gonna
this
like
is
go
cool.
down the rabbit hole right now?
Yeah.
I'm almost scared. I'm like, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
obsessed with
But actually,
it.
we
Yeah.
should probably
You
set
will be,
something
but it's a
up
good
on
thing.
Reddit.
Yeah, I probably should. Yeah.
Can you link it? Can you link the Reddit to the Facebook and?
Yeah, 100%. I believe you could. Yeah,
I think you have
could
to
do all that.
direct
Yeah.
share though. I don't think it's like a
You
you know
could
what
list
Facebook
your
or
subreddit.
Instagram you can share directly to Facebook.
Right,
I don't
right.
think it has that capacity.
Okay.
But you can definitely just post links and
Right,
carry
yeah.
over like that.
Yeah.
I think that will look into
Anyway,
it.
yeah, I definitely will. But what you were saying was that since we're a nonprofit, we should be looking into other nonprofits that have excess funds that want to give, but not like higher ones that are like middle ground.
Okay.
And then you gave me a platform that had all of them listed.
GuideStar.
What's it
That's
called?
what it is.
GuideStar?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Good
So
to
I
know.
think that would be another step, because I had mentioned it to her and she said,
There's
Yeah.
another one that I like to use. We got to get a nice little advertiser referral rate on this. BuzzFile.
BuzzFile?
Yeah.
And that's to find non-for-profits or?
So BuzzFile is super powerful because you can look at zip code and it tells you every business
Oh, wow.
within that zip code, and then you could segment it further. I think it's like $8 a month, and you can like look at the whole thing for free.
Man, there is a database for everything.
Yeah,
huh?
there is.
I
Yeah.
paid $8
yeah,
to print it out.
you know,
It's
the
just
thing is
actually-
that
There you
we
go.
don't have the
There you go.
databases available at our
We'll
fingertips
be back.
because we're artists. So we're like,
Yeah.
ooh, you know what I mean? Like writing the stories and doing all these
Colors.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
And so then when we're sitting in front of the computer trying to do all of this like more like business style things, like it requires a whole lot of experience that we don't have.
I got another one for you guys. This
I'm writing
will
them
continue-
down.
Well, it's
we'll
gonna be
send you this.
transcribed.
Yeah,
It's
recorded.
gonna be transcribed.
No, but I
Don't
need to do this like right now because I can't wait for the transcription.
We also, concept, bro. No, we also got so I'm a big fan of this, but this will require your personal investment. Virtual assistants.
Virtual assistants.
Yeah.
Have to get it.
Is that like literally what it
Actually what it
says?
says.
Like
Virtual
virtual
assistant.
So you
assistants?
pay somebody. So I do this all the time. I actually got this going on right now. I'm trying to buy a new real estate deal in Pennsylvania. So I got my virtual assistant. His name is Ranganathan something, and he's from Bangladesh, and he's awesome. I paid him $264, and I bought a house off of his research.
Wow.
I made that money back the second month because the third unit was vacant. So it was like, all right, either I sit down and do this, or I just pay this guy to do it, and he's just doing data entry. So
It's like basically playing arbitrage between international currencies.
Yeah.
So you're paying him like above a living wage over there.
well, he was making
Right.
like the average household income. If
Right.
he just had me,
Wow.
and if he had everybody else, he was like, yeah, he was doing really well for himself.
So these are people that are actually serious about their jobs. They're not
Yeah,
like
100%.
because we had thought about going the internship route and like hiring interns, and we're like, what's the point of that if they don't know what they're doing
Yeah.
and we don't know what we're doing? We can't teach
You have to get
them.
really lucky
Yeah,
with an
that's
intern
the
over
thing.
here.
Yeah.
Because the drive isn't there like some of these other people. These are professionals that are doing this work and just having it outsourced because, again, arbitraging the funds,
Yeah.
it's like a Forex exchange.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at it, like I paid a guy. Well, I'm not gonna say that one. So one of my buddies paid somebody to get a wallet designed. If he would have got it done here, it would have been like $15,000. I think he paid this guy $500.
Wow.
Right.
Qualified.
And the guy's like in Italy, and he
engineer,
gave
yeah.
like full blown like computer
Specs and
assisted
stuff.
design renderings with like each single part.
Yeah. I
Like
mean, that-
nuts.
That makes a lot more sense than doing the intern because again, I've interned a lot of places in New York, and what I found is exactly that. Either you're interning for somebody that they don't know what they're doing, and you end up getting so much of a workload that you're not getting paid for at
Yeah,
all,
right.
or you're in a company where you're basically buying like toiletries and coffee, and it's like, what am I really learning?
Yeah, it can't be the blind leading the
Yeah,
blind.
exactly.
You gotta like have some structure. So with a virtual assistant, you can say, hey, go find this. And I'm gonna be honest, they're not always the best. But I
it's
found some
anybody.
really good stuff out of them. Like I think we paid one guy, so we paid him Ranganathan, love you Ring. I paid this guy like 10
Let me get his contact.
Yeah, I know.
I
It's
got
like,
He sounds like he's the one.
Pre-screened.
Yeah, I think we paid him like $20 or something like that. And listen, he did a bunch of venture capital research for me. No, he did a bunch of research around advertising on how we could get advertisers for our platform. 90% or 80% of the content he found was not good. He's not me or my co-founder, but he found one place that was gold, and that's all I needed.
Right.
So it's like, all right, we paid him $20.
Couple hours
If I get one conversion on that platform,
That's worth it.
like the best conversion I think is like $250. So it's like, yeah, dude, yeah,
yeah.
have your $20. Right.
But basically what that breaks down
So-
to, though, is the time value of money, right? So
100%.
everybody has the same 24 hours in the day. What is your hour worth? And, you can calculate that however you think you want, But if you can outsource every single task, and this is kind of playing into what Tim Ferriss talks about a lot, plug for you, Tim.
Or Perry Marshall.
Or Perry Marshall, also Perry Marshall. If you guys are hearing this, call us.
Yeah.
But, so basically what you want to do, though, is calculate your time value of money and start working to outsource every single task that does not hit that threshold. And it'll free you up to think much more creatively and solve more pivotal problems that'll convert into higher cash flow for yourself.
Just a clarifying question. So when you're talking about like monetizing your time worth, so like let's say if I'm saying like I'm worth $100 an hour, right?
Sure.
So what you're saying is to outsource anything that would, I'm just saying, you know, hypothetically speaking, I wish one day.
So let's say $250.
Yeah, let's say $250 an hour. But let's say, so you're saying to outsource anything that's say a $20 an hour job.
Yeah,
Every
so
single time.
can I jump in on this? So let's say you're fundraising, right?
Right.
And it's going to take you 5 hours to close this fundraising deal. And you're fundraising $100K. So that means every hour is worth $20,000. You should not be worrying about like building an Excel spreadsheet with nonprofit organizations if in 5 hours you could bring in $100,000 towards a project. So that's kind of what it comes from. In the book, this is my favorite one. So in the book, I'm Perry Marshall, 80/20 Sales and Marketing. Amazing book. It's honestly my favorite business book.
Top 5, yeah.
Yeah, top
It's a
3
good
for
one,
me.
too.
Like I love it.
Perry Marshall.
Yeah. So what he talks about is he says if I'm working on getting, so if he's talking in front of a group of people for a seminar, he makes $100,000 for that 1 hour. Let's go, whatever it is, right? So it may be $250 for the whole event, and it may be 2 hours and a half, whatever it is. He says if I can make that much money, I am not taking the trash out at home. I'm going to pay somebody to do that. I'm not washing my dishes. I'm not going to, well, he walks a dog, you know, like, and like you have to, there has to be a balance. So it's not like just be super like binary on it, but it's understanding that. So like research for me, that's a low payoff activity. I'm really not good at it and I just don't enjoy it. But I can pay this guy to go ahead and do it. Whereas I could be prospecting clients for 6, 7, 5-figure contracts. I'd rather go do that. Right?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's
Or
great.
even, and if you can't quantify, like you, whereas like you are creating art and you really don't know what it's gonna bring back, well now that's an emotional value. So like I like cooking, so yeah, cooking may be a $5 an hour task. Okay, but I like it, so I will do that. I don't like sitting on my computer for 3 hours and like doing research and plugging stuff in Excel. I don't do that, right? So it's also understanding those things too.
Oh yeah, you definitely gotta love film if you want to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Especially starting out, you definitely gotta love it, even writing.
I mean, I really love that this story in particular has such a strong impact and has really like had a ripple effect even within my group of friends and family. Like I've had 2 people come forward and like in a sense come out to me in a different way. Do you know what I mean? Like just like share with me their experience, and I'm like, wow, like I would have never, you know what I mean, known had I never started this project. And like look how many lives I'm like already making them feel more comfortable to talking to me about it. Like that's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I want to continue that on. Like I'm into impactful stories, so like if I can share those emotions with other people, and if I can have that ripple effect and like have people have these conversations with each other, I'm like down, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like if I can do it and if I feel that way, other people will feel that way too.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is that emotional.
Yeah, always lead with that. It's what your story is. So I guess, what's your closing remarks? What do you want the people in the YouTube world and the
podcast space,
millions of people that are going to watch this video?
Oh, I hope for you guys. I hope for you guys.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's happening.
Oh, yeah.
There's no hope.
Yeah, no,
You
there's
already
no
know.
hope.
It's
Just
a
wait.
secret. You already have it. You already have
Exactly.
it. You already have it. Don't even worry
It's all
about
the
it.
secret.
Like I already won like all the awards I could. Don't worry about it. I'm already a millionaire. It's okay.
Yeah. But so like closing remarks. So I always really like this. Nardwuar does this. I don't know if you guys watch Nardwuar.
I think you said narwhal. I was like,
No, he's a human
Talking to
servant.
whales.
Yeah. Go watch Nardwuar. He's amazing.
Nardwuar.
He's a freak. But he's great.
Like
why should
meditation.
people care
Watch
about-
meditation. Expand your consciousness.
Why should people care about you guys and your project, and where can they find you?
So, why should people care about me and my project? Oh God, this is a good one. They should, yeah. They should care about. I almost feel like you don't have to care necessarily about me, but you should care about spreading impactful and powerful stories and storytelling and speaking truth. Do you know what I mean? And to me, that's the most important thing. And it is somebody's truth, whether it's mine or not. But it's definitely something that all of us can relate to. You know what I mean? Like just dating outside of a race or religion, or you know what I mean? Like it's just, to me, it's the most important thing, and the reason why you should care about me or my project is because it's storytelling in an impactful way in our world and in our environment and universe. We need it. You know, like we need shifts to happen in order for us to grow and become better.
Yeah, and I would just say, going off of that, you know, again, talking about truth, it's so hard to live in your truth for anybody, and to really examine yourself and to really be in that. And I'd say for this, I mean, in terms of me, you know, I was in a career that was, you know, very lucrative. You know, I was selling cars, I was selling Mercedes-Benz. Let's have Mercedes-Benz be a sponsor.
We're going to get that sponsorship.
You know, like,
we got an opportunity here.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, you know, I was making a very, very good living. You know, I was set. I could have just stayed in that career. I could have just been, you know, probably had a house by now, probably, you know, not have to struggle with bills and everything. And I left it. And the whole reason I left it is because I followed my truth, and I said, you know what, this is not serving me. You know, this is not what I want to do. I went to school for film, for literature, for history. You know, I want to tell stories because of that, to get other people to live in their truths, to get other people to kind of slow down for a second and really just kind of enjoy life. And that to me is the whole thing for filmmaking. You know, why do you even make films in the first place? Is because you want to get some people to feel, because, you know, everybody's stressed. Everybody has jobs. You know, they have kids. They worry about money. They worry about this. God forbid, there's some people out there that don't have limbs. They can't see. You know, we should all be very appreciative. And if you can make something that gets people to stop, even for 1 minute, even for 30 seconds, and feel joy or feel something, or, you know, can change something, that I feel like with art filmmaking, that's the whole point of it.
Right.
And if we could do that with a story, if we could, like a story like this, where, you know, hopefully it can allow people to stop and be like, hey, listen, you know what, maybe my life's not that bad. Or, you know what, I identify with her even though I may not be LGBTQ. I understand because maybe I'm holding back the fact that, you know, I want to be a clown and my doctors are, my family's all doctors. Or, you know what I mean? To kind of just to say
Sure.
that. But
No, I hear you.
what it is about, like, this story to me is about living in your truth and how hard it truly is.
Yeah.
And the idea of being that free, and what does that mean? So
Absolutely.
I mean, that would be my closing remark. Mercedes-Benz, watch this.
You should they do a lot of charity work over at Mercedes-Benz, though. Donating
They
cars.
do. They're
sell cars.
I will say, you know what, that was it was such a good company to work for.
Have you tried them yet for funding?
Huh? They don't do for arts. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a hard kind of
Alright.
thing. They do
Maybe
more so
that'll
like
change.
sports.
They got a partnership with A$AP Rocky now.
Well, hey, listen, if that's the case, I would love Mercedes-Benz, and if you guys want to, you know, lend me an S63 to drive, you know, that'll be great advertisement too.
I'll take a smart
I'll
car,
even take
bro.
a G. I'll even take a G-Wagon. Let's do it, guys.
Awesome.
Powerful.
So, I think that's it, right?
Yeah, that was
Awesome.
powerful. Thank you guys for your time. We
Thank
really
you
appreciate
guys
it.
for having
Thank
us.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is a great, you know what I mean? This is a great thing what you guys are doing, and like really helping us out as like, you know, people out there in the world just trying to make it or whatever. Like, this is important conversations to have, and so we thank you as well.
I think the biggest thing is there's not enough access.
Yes.
No, 100%.
I mean, like, there's Google.
Right.
Yeah, but
And I like that in
And
the
you
end of the
define
day,
that.
like, I want you to be successful just as much as you want me to be successful. Like, he's gonna buy a ticket right now.
I still got it loaded.
Yeah. You
We'll
know what
be
I
there
mean?
on
Like, it's
site,
like as soon
yeah.
as he saw us and heard us, like, he's like, yeah, like, I'm there. I want to be successful. You guys to be
Okay.
successful, and I want to give you valid information and valid things so that you are successful. Because I feel like the world is abundant, and if we help each other out, we'll all get there, you know?
Absolutely. So
There's-
one more time. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's more success in this world than people that are successful. So
Mhm.
it's not like only one person can succeed.
Right.
We all can.
Right.
we all can't be billionaires, but
Yeah.
we all can
But
succeed.
I'll
Yeah.
take like a solid 20 million.
Quality. Yeah. 10x that.
Yeah. On an X.
So I was gonna say just one more time, just to wrap it up. You want to just say your names again, the name of the film, and maybe when people can expect to start seeing
And social media accounts.
and social media accounts
Yeah.
for sure.
So I'm Sheila Haya. I'm the writer, producer, and assistant director.
Liri Asllani, I'm the executive producer.
And our film is called Nadia Jan, Nadiajan. And our Instagram account is at Nadia Jan the short.
And
What is
Nadia
it?
Jan, I think.
At Nadia Jan?
Mhm.
No, Nadia Jan the movie.
Oh, sorry.
At Nadia Jan the movie.
Why am I on social media?
Edit that, please.
Yeah.
At Nadia Jan the movie. That's our Instagram and our Facebook page. And the link to donate, if you're inclined to donate, will be provided.
In the description.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
Right
you.
here, guys.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, that's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
guys.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks.
Let's eat.
Game on loud, girl, make it drop. Let me see what you about. Yeah, cause I'm in it to win it. Stacking my digits. Headshots for critics. I'm here for my millions. Fuck them all, let the haters die. I'm the realest motherfucker, no blood in my eye. Just sun in my eye. I've been up on the grind, we ain't on the same time. I grew up with no bands, just a hope and a dream. Now we shining, we clean, stacking deals, never repeat. Fuck them all, motherfuck them all. If a hater wanna hate, will my hands still work? If they feeling like they tough, will my gun still squirt? If they wanna call my bluff, call the morgue up first. It don't stop, bands running up, he got enough to pay the cows. My team don't